Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. If you please honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll? Hey, Eddie.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Madonza.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Nuwan.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kennedy.
Here.
Councilor Laurie.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. I'll read the notice of the budget sessions. The Lowell City Council will hold a public hearing on the proposed fiscal 2013 City of Lowell budget and the proposed fiscal 2013 capital plan on Tuesday, June 12th, 2012 at 5 p.m. and if necessary, Thursday, June 14th, 2012 at 5 p.m. and on such other dates and times to be publicly announced by the City Council. The hearing will be held in the City Council chambers, City Hall. The public is invited to attend. At this point, we'd open it up to the City Manager for his initial presentation. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I will try to be brief with this presentation because I know that the council has a lot of questions tonight, and I know other people are planning to speak. If I could, though, I would like to walk the council through a brief presentation and overview of the budget. Let me just say as an opening remark that I've been doing municipal budgeting now for a quarter of a century, and that I have to say that this is the most rewarding budget that I have been involved in developing and preparing for a variety of reasons. One, it reflects the progress that we've made over the last 6 years in restoring financial stability to the city during some very difficult times. And it also, I think it's notable, and you'll hear this repeatedly probably through my presentation, one of the aspects of this budget that I think is particularly rewarding as well is the fact that it ties very much to the strategic planning process that the administration and the City Council have undertaken over the past couple of years, and that in very much is a budget that's designed to reflect the goals and the ideas of the City Council. So I think it's notable for that as well. And then lastly, I guess the third point I would just make in terms of the budget document itself, again, tied into the notion of performance budgeting. The budget is chock full of information. When you look at the budget that fiscal year 13 represents, compare it to the budget of the last year, 13 is much better. And 12 was better than 11, and 11 was better than 10, and so on. This budget, the budget process that we go through here in the city is really one that the citizens should be proud of. It's on par with really the best managed communities that are out there. And we're trying to get the Government Finance Officers Association Award for Excellence in Budgeting. We may still have a ways to go, but this one is certainly right up there with that. So, having said all of that, as I've already said, we're transitioning from fiscal crisis to fiscal stability to, I believe, managing prosperity. I think that the signs are all very good here in the city, and I think it's a reflection certainly of the work that the administration has done with the City Council and the City Council's support in putting together and assisting us with financial policies, providing the goals, providing the oversight. And I have to give credit certainly to the department heads who are here tonight, all our department heads, for their efforts over the last several years to really manage the city in the most effective way. I always tell the story that when we had to go through the serious budget cutting a few years ago, there were some people who felt that we should, that the government should show people how much it can hurt when we have to make cuts. And 201, the department heads bought on and supported the notion that that's not our job. Our job isn't to make people hurt. Our job is to live within the means that are available to us to provide the services that people are interested in having. The challenge, I think, in terms of managing prosperity is to make sure that we don't lose sight of that and slip into bad practices for short-term political gain as opposed to the long-term importance or stability of the city. As I said, the budget does make targeted investments based upon City Council priorities, and City Council was very much involved in that process. It does include, this budget plan does include $4 million of capital investment, which will come up later tonight in the capital budget. And significantly, and I think the council is, I think will be very pleased with this, the tax levy will only go up 0.4% in fiscal year 13, and that isn't carved in stone. It can still go down from that. It's certainly conceivable that in the over the next several months, as we fine-tune some of the revenue numbers as we get closer to the midway point of the fiscal year when we have to submit the paperwork to the state, that we may be able to knock that down, in fact, to zero. This is the lowest increase since 2001 in the city of Lowell. It does follow on the other information that I've given you in the past, that the last 5 years, the tax increases, contrary to sort of the perception maybe that's out there in some quarters, the taxes in the city of Lowell over the last 5 years have gone up less than in the prior immediate 5 years. And I think that's really an accomplishment during these very difficult fiscal times. This just gives you just a general sense, and the council has a copy of this presentation on their desk. I apologize to the department heads who have to try to read these in here, but just in terms of the revenue makeup, you can see that we get a very large chunk of our resources from the state, roughly 50% between Chapter 70, general aid, and MSBA reimbursement actually comes out to about 53%. So we're very much dependent upon what the state does. Our tax levy only represents roughly 37% of the total revenue in the city. That's different than the average across the state, but it reflects the demographics of the city, and that it is what it is. In terms of looking at each one of the revenues, the local aid, that has begun to stabilize. This is actually the third year that local aid has stayed the same. Last year, initially, there was a $1.6 million cut that was then restored, and this year they've built that right into the base. So it's level funded from the previous 2 fiscal years. Chapter 70 funding, which is in addition to the general local aid, Chapter 70 funding reserved for schools increases by $4.8 million. Local aid overall, though, is still significantly less than what it was in prior fiscal years. In fact, our local aid, total local aid, I think is now just where it was in 1999, thereabouts. But you can see here, too, and this is a chart that we've used in the past that I think is significant. It reflects the state's priorities, but it does give some sense of what's happening in the non-school side of things. The state aid for the schools in 1990 was about $23 million. It now is about $123 million. General local aid in 1990 was about $26 million. It's now down to about $17 million. So that's money, those in real dollars. That's not adjusted for inflation at all. So that's excluding school building assistance, but that gives you some sense of what the state has done with their revenues and the impact it has on local government. Local receipts is another large part of our budget, but certainly not the largest part. We're assuming a 1.8% increase in local receipts from the 2012 budget. These are motor vehicle excise, building permits, tax title or tax lien receipts, the liquor licenses, trash fees, and the like. It also includes money that comes in from the enterprises. They pay over to the general fund. That is approximately $4.2 million, which is about 8% lower, which leaves more money in the hands of the enterprises, but it's lower because of the reduction in health insurance costs within the enterprises. So that is good news in terms of our rate structure and our fees for those services. Property taxes. Since Fiscal year '08, we've utilized a policy that the council is aware of where we have limited our levy increase to 2.5%. Unfortunately, that's been mischaracterized again in some quarters that we're insisting that it go up at 2.5%. That is a limit. That's why we've been able to stay below the prior 5 years where a limit was not put in place. So we essentially acted as if we were at the levy limit, but as we all know, the city of Lowell is well below the levy limit. We began deviating from that policy in fiscal year 2012 with the supplemental money that came in late in the year. We had already set our budget, we already set our spending plan, so we utilized $1 million of that supplemental appropriation to property tax relief, thereby bringing us under 2.5% for fiscal year 2012. As I said, the tax levy increase this year is 0.4%. It's the smallest, as I've said, since 2001, and it's the lowest tax increase in the region. And in fact, is probably one of the lowest in the state. You know, again, this is a chart that you've seen before, some of you have seen before. This gives you some sense of what the rest of the state is doing with their average single-family tax bill. In 1992, we were just about, I believe, $600 below the $600 below the state average. We're now $1,300 below the state average. Other communities across the state, cities and towns, are growing at a faster rate than the city of Lowell. Not that that's a bad thing, it's a good thing. At the same time, it reflects more revenues those communities are raising to put towards certain services, but also I think it's a reflection of the city of Lowell through the years working to hold that tax bill down through cost savings measures. A priority in 2013, as we all know, was to minimize the tax increase. The actions in fiscal year 12 resulted in an increase in the levy capacity of to $6.4 million. So in other words, under the Department of Revenue regulations, under Proposition 2.5, we could simply increase taxes by another $6.4 million without going for any type of Proposition 2.5 override, which is popular with all the other communities around us. All of them now, I believe, have done overrides or debt exemptions. The city of Lowell never has, and there's certainly no need to even consider something like that here, as we have that $6.4 million, which is one of the highest in the state. With the budget that we're presenting to you right now, that is projected to increase by $2.3 million to $8.7 million. We did a new chart this year. We tried to be a little creative this year. Let me just explain a little bit what this tries to do. It's referred to as a scattergram, and I know that people at home can see this because it's piped in directly. I know that the people in the back really can't, but the councilors can from what's in front of them. Essentially, the blue square that you see is the city of Lowell. Everyone to the left of that square has a lower tax levy than the city of Lowell, and they range really from, and most of the communities in the state, as you can see, have a tax levy lower, and in fact have an excess levy capacity lower. Everything to the right has a tax levy that's higher than the city of Lowell, and you can see that there's only 2 communities that have a tax levy higher than the city of Lowell that have more excess levy capacity than the city of Lowell. One is the city of Cambridge. That's the one way to the right and way at the top. They can actually, they have their excess levy capacity is the equivalent of our levy. They can tax another $100 million. And the other little dot there at 10% and has a levy of about $175 million, we believe is the city of Quincy. On the expense side of the ledger, this year in general terms, we see reductions in costs in our health insurance. We all know about that. And we also all know about our energy costs. The increases are the fixed costs, the schools, and targeted investments based on the City Council priorities that were developed in conjunction with the department heads in the strategic planning process. Just gives you some sense of where the money goes. 50% of it goes to schools, followed by employee benefits at 15.8%, and hopefully with the health insurance changes we've made, we've brought that under control, although we expect that will still grow. Police and fire, public safety are the next 2, representing just about 14% of the budget, just under that, followed by the various other departments. So you can see that our priorities are very clear. It's schools and public safety. In terms of how the money is utilized, again, you can see at schools, we don't break it down by expenses versus personnel, but they represent 50.5% of how we spend our money. Fixed costs represent 24% of how we spend our money by category. And then you can see payroll is 19%, departmental expenses are 3.4%, and so on. So the first is where the money goes, and the second chart tells you what the money is used for. You can see that the payroll, of course, is the largest part. We're a service-oriented operation. Departmental costs are very small. It's only that 3% that we utilize to provide the services to the city. In terms of the pension, the expenses, the fixed costs, I categorize them in certain areas. Fixed costs, pension costs are scheduled to increase $1 million this year. That's based on the previous council actions. The council did take votes to provide the cost of living increase for the retirees. That is a big chunk of that $1 million. The earlier councils have also supported other actions that have resulted in these costs going up. Then, of course, we have the unfunded liability, the very large unfunded liability, so we have to meet that funding schedule. So that represents $1 million of the increased costs that the city is facing. Trash costs are anticipated to increase by $182,000 based on the contracts we have with the burn facility that we bring it to, as well as Allied Waste. We also expect that we will see some uptick in tonnage this year with the amount of capital projects we're doing in the schools and so on, that there will be construction debris that will need to be removed. That makes up a small portion of that 182, but it is a cost that we are anticipating. Greater Lowell Technical High School increases by $375,000, and that's based on the minimum calculations. I know this Greater Lowell Superintendent is here to speak to that tonight. So that again is set by state requirements. On the expense side too, we do see decreases. We see right in the area of energy. This chart, I know that there's been some review or consideration of the energy savings that we've realized and the debt service associated with the Amoresco project. This shows the savings that we have in the blue and the debt service in the green. And the debt service, both of them are cumulative. So in fiscal year 11, we saw a $1 million decrease in energy budgets over fiscal year 10. Then that plus the about $1.1 million in fiscal year 12 gives you about $2.1 million. And then we have this year another roughly $1.4 million total of savings. It all adds up to that roughly $3.5 million. And then the debt service, you can see, is growing as well with the Amoresco debt service now coming online. But we're still ahead of the game in terms of our costs. And that is attributable to the Amoresco project, but it's also, I think, very much attributable to the procurement that we've done. We've been much more aggressive in the purchase of our electricity and the purchase of our natural gas to provide the savings. This is another chart just to show some of that. It gives you the budget for electricity and energy each one of the years going from 2007 to 2013. You see it gets spiked actually in 2010, and it's been on a downward trend since then. On expenses, health insurance, major reduction this year, and credit really needs to go to the City Council certainly and their support of doing something about health insurance. The employees who came to the table and worked with us to redesign our plans going into the GIC. That will save us about $4.8 million. Those are savings that are divided between the general fund, the schools, and the enterprise funds. So, and there's, again, a chart that shows that you can see that in 2011, we hit the highest point, pretty much level in 2012, when the employees stepped forward and eliminated Master Medical. And then in 2013, you can see that it actually drops off. Now, it dropped off, but then there's a small increase there. I believe it's about 2.5% in the GIC rates, but it still is a savings over last year. Schools. We have been meeting the required school spending level for the past 4 years. This year, we're showing that school spending will, in this budget, school spending will increase by $5.8 million, $4.8 in Chapter 70, plus an additional $1 million in schools from city's funds. In addition, the capital budget, which you'll see, which we'll take up later tonight, has numerous capital projects that are included within that, as well as some projects we're going to do within the ordinary operating budget with all the work orders that we have open. And we're going to hit at the HVAC projects, the roofs, the flooring, and a number of plumbing types of repairs at the schools, which are desperately needed. The new schools of the 1990s are now 20 years old, and they need work. In terms of the required school spending, you can see that in 2009, we actually hit required school spending, and we've been, this is the 4th year of that. Prior to that, going back to 1993, the city was not able to make that required net school spending. Again, that's, I think, a major accomplishment during these past 4 years, again, during very, very difficult economic times. In general government, there's a decrease of $475,000 in school utility costs. We do have the addition of a junior analyst position in the city manager's office, which is funded by grant monies that, as you know, the city of Lowell was the lead community in a statewide grant we're actually combined with 4 other communities to develop a STAT program for the entire Commonwealth in municipal government. The city of Lowell, that's a feather in the cap, I think, of the city, that we're recognized for the work that we've done with our data and analyst and our STAT program. This will help us comply with the state requirement to roll this out statewide, and it will be funded by the state. We do have major grant losses in DPD. We mitigated that by the reduction in headcount, 6 people. We are losing the health insurance trust fund. That trust fund was utilized over the last several years to fund a salary in the HR department, which is allowed under the law. Now that we're no longer on a self-insured basis, that trust fund salary is offset is not there, so we have to fill that ourselves. But I think the $4.8 million certainly mitigates the cost of taking that on in-house. We have included $1 million provision in the budget for settling contracts. The first contract came before you last week, 2 weeks ago, and was approved. This is tied to the fact that the collective bargaining groups have worked with us. They've taken furloughs, they've taken pay freezes, they went 2 years without a raise, they've worked with us on the health insurance, and so this is a good faith effort to work with them to settle up new contracts that will include changes in their language that is beneficial to the city, such as the sick time buyback being eliminated. In the expenses on public safety, we are including a $300,000 increase over last year's initially approved budget. We did, as you know, we've increased the overtime throughout the year on 2 occasions for one for targeted patrols, the other for a variety of issues that arose during this past year. We're hopeful that those will not arise again this year, but we are putting more money in the department for those targeted patrols. We also continue to fund 3 additional offices that were added late this year that were funded by grants that are now going to be funded through the budget. And likewise, we've increased the fire overtime with $180,000, with our goal being, and we may not achieve it totally this year, but that's our goal, is to reduce the average company closings per shift to 1. Since 1992, it's been 2. So we're looking to get that down to 1. Again, this may not quite get us there, but we think it's a goal worth having. The chief this year was able to manage his budget to such an extent that he was able to increase certain coverage with savings in various salary line items, but this will go a long way towards meeting that goal. In the Parks Department and Public Works, we've added 3 laborers in parks. This was an issue that Councilor Mercier brought up at another meeting, looking if we could do something to help out in the cemeteries. These laborers in the parks will be able to be utilized across DPW divisions, including cemeteries, but also including lands and buildings, because we have a number of projects that we want to get to in the land and buildings division. This year, you will see some budget changes that reflect the consolidation of fleet maintenance. All fleet maintenance now is handled in the Public Works area, is handled at the Middlesex Street facility. It's been moved out of Parks and Cemetery. We're moving, ultimately we'll be moving water and wastewater as well. We've also added a construction inspector in the engineering office to and some more funding and professional services for road work that we want to do in terms of the accepted roads. This is in alignment with council priorities, and we've increased the snow and ice budget up by $100,000, bringing us up to $1.3 million. This year, I think we all acknowledge, was a very strange year where we only spent $1 million. Generally, we spend $2.5 to $3 million. We're getting closer to being more realistic in our budgeting, which is will again lend itself to more financial stability. In community services, we've added $154,000 in recreation. This is, I know, a priority of the council, and we've reflected this here. Councilor Laurie and Councilor Martin have discussed this in the past, but through this, we've increased programming by 2,300 hours, providing summer employment for over 70 more youths. We've also increased spending in the library to meet state grant requirements. It's not only the grant that we receive a state grant for libraries as long as we meet certain spending requirements. And we've received a waiver over the last several years, but there's a limit on how many times a community can go for a waiver. Absent this spending the necessary money and being open the specified number of hours, which we don't have a problem on that part, but if we don't spend the required money, we lose the state grant, and our residents lose the ability to visit area libraries, and we also lose our interlibrary loan privileges. So someone that wants to take a book out of the Andover Library and order it here at the Pollard would be prohibited if we were to not meet the state requirements for spending. We've also increased veteran services by $175,000 to meet the needs of that department. We've seen certainly an uptick over the last couple of years with veterans coming back that need services, and the tough economic times have made it necessary to increase those resources. That will be funded at 70% by the state, but it takes about a year to get that money. So that will come in the cherry sheet in state aid in the future. Major personnel line changes, and I won't, I'll just quickly read through all of them, not necessarily the amounts, but reserve for contracts, the $1 million. We also have loss of grant funding. We've increased public safety overtime that we've talked about. We have the payment for the elimination of Master Medical, a concession that our employees made last year. We have the 3 new police officers that we brought on. We have the recreation program, the 3 labor positions. We have the library spending. We have increased public works overtime, again, to get at some of those work order items that are hanging out there, particularly in the schools. We have the loss of the health insurance trust fund and the 1 construction inspector, totaling $3.167 million of additional salary money. Just some sort of closing type comments before I get into in the general fund, before I get into the enterprises. We do have the issue of reserves and fiscal flexibility. Reserve categories of fiscal flexibility, it's defined by the Department of Revenue, our stabilization, free cash. In our case, our special reserve fund that was put in when the oversight board was here, and the excess levy capacity. The Chapter 17 reserve is unique to Lowell. As I said, it was $4.2 million established by the state during the 1990s. We can use it, but we have to replenish it by the next fiscal year. It's worth reminding everyone that the reason we got into some trouble back in the early 1990s was that we took some actions, that weren't necessarily in the long-term best interests of the city, although certainly understandable at the time, perhaps. But one of the things we did, for instance, back then was we overestimated revenues and got ourselves into trouble. I meant to mention that in the local receipts section of my presentation, so I'll mention it there. That got us into trouble then. We should try to avoid doing that in the future. 2013, we anticipate will be another year in which we improve our reserves. This gives you the chart that, again, you've seen. This is showing that the peak for the city was back in 2002, where we had combined about $30 million, $32 million worth of fiscal flexibility, dropping off in 2006 to just about $7 million, $6 million, that was largely the reserve and the excess levy capacity. So we're building that up, and we're building our stabilization, which in the long run is good for us because it's going to help us with our bond rating. That bond rating is important because it costs us less to borrow money, and it also is important because investors that are coming into the city, developers that are coming into the city, want to know that they're in a stable environment. And you can see that going back into 1986, we were at Baa1, continued that way until we went into Baa in the early 1990s during the oversight board years, and began to climb back up before in 2000. 6, we would drop down into the A3 category. We've since gone up to A1, in part because of some changes in the way, in the way that they set the ratings, but also as a result of the actions that have been taken, and that's clearly evident by the credit analysis that Moody's does. The general fund forecast looking forward, and this again is in your budget book, we have forecast out through fiscal year 17. It's driven in large part by a desire to limit property tax increases. 2014 currently shows a modest deficit. We expect to be able to mitigate that during next year's budget process, but let's get through this one first. The school budgets continue to increase because of additional Chapter 70 funding, and we will continue. We're rolling that $1 million from our local appropriations into the base school budget for 2014. The forecast also reflects collective bargaining agreements that we anticipate will be put in place with that money that's in the reserve this year, and the debt service does reflect the capital plan that you also have in front of you. In terms of where that capital spending goes, the largest chunk of it goes $1.9 million. Almost half of it goes to the school budget. $213 goes to the vehicles. City administration buildings is scheduled for about 1.3. This is some fire station improvements, but also the windows in this building. We have had some issues with windows falling out of this building. We'd like to prevent that from happening in the future. And then we have some other monies put aside for transportation-related projects in this year's capital budget as well. I won't go through each one of these enterprise slides in great detail, but suffice to say that the water fund is doing well, that benefits and debt services declined. Other categories have increased. We do need to replace a carbon filter at a cost of $250,000 this year. We expect to keep on schedule to replace that every year, but you can see that the water revenue makeup is mostly in the rate revenue, but we do have miscellaneous revenue that we bring in from other sources of about 3%. Most of the money goes to just general expenses and then debt service, followed by payroll. Wastewater is a little bit different. Wastewater, the operating expenses are slightly higher percentage of costs than last year. Debt service costs are down as a percentage with the Water Pollution Abatement Trust pushing back their bond financing back, which delays it by a year. We have heard from the council, and I think we understand what we've been asked to look at, and we concur that it's better to gradually increase rates rather than have 1 or 2 very large adjustments. This forecast that in wastewater reflects that desire, and we do anticipate coming in July with a rate increase of 5%. It will still keep us at one of the lowest rates in the state, and it would not be actually put in place until January 1st. In the future, the rates would come on July 1st. Our goal is to gradually work down the fund balance to a maintenance level of $500,000. Right now, it's at a large, we actually have a large balance, but as we know, it's a short period of time before that goes into deficit. In the parking enterprise, garage and lot revenue are up over last year, and so is meter revenue. Fine revenue is down as a percentage, and there's a structural balance, so no reserves are needed this year. The kiosk system continues to be a huge success with overall revenue up. Meter revenue continues to displace fine revenue. In other words, people are paying at the meters. We're not ticketing as much. This next graph is just a month-by-month looking at by year, and you can see that 2012 in green, we've exceeded each and every month, or almost every month here in 2012 for each of the months, and we expect that again we'll be able to finish this year with a good surplus, and no rate increase will be needed there for some period of time, probably through 2017. We do expect, we have added an additional employee this year dedicated to kiosk management. The kiosks are being rolled out fast and furiously, and it is a key part of our revenue structure. We want to make sure that it's operating effectively and that it's implemented effectively because it is so successful. We want to make sure that we are putting in the new kiosks in areas that we can enhance our revenue with additional parking spaces. It's going to require some capital investments to install those. Those installations of new kiosks are not reflected in the forecast. Sort of in conclusion, I guess, is what I would finalize these last ones as meeting strategic goals. That essentially the administration is, through its budget process, is rubber stamping the priorities of the City Council. That we are doing, I believe, everything that we've been asked to do. That we are holding the line on taxes. That we have that 0.4% increase in the tax levy, the lowest increase since 2001. We have increased police coverage because we've heard from the council that they want more police on the street. This will provide an additional 5,300 hours of additional coverage, along with the 3 additional police officers. We've increased fire. It was just 2 years ago or a year ago that we had the fire out on Bridge Street, and I heard very loud and clear from the councilors that they'd like to see what we could do to cut down on, despite the tough economic times, what can we do to cut down on the closure of fire companies. And we've been working with the union on this, and they've been pleased with the progress we've made, and we remain committed to this, and that's important to us. We also have our recreation program that the council asked that we do, and again, we're fully supportive. We see the value of recreation, and this is the most robust recreation program in over 12 years here in the city of Lowell. We've increased our programming by over 2,300 hours. There's certainly a clear consensus that we need to improve our roads, so we've added the construction inspector to make sure that the road cuts that are done by the utilities are done properly, and also to work with our engineering staff to get new roads accepted. We've put money aside for that. In the schools, and schools have been a priority, clearly, to have a strong school system that will bring people into the city, and we've added that $1 million, and we provide the health insurance savings of $2.4 million in their own budget, that both of those can go towards programs, teachers, and books, technology, as opposed to going into health insurance, plus that $1 million. We've certainly heard that we need, and we couldn't agree more, that there needs to be more money spent on capital on our facilities. So we've got the capital budget that you have in front of you. You have parks and cemeteries that we need to, again, maintain our facilities, and particularly put some staff out at the cemeteries to help with the contract that we put in place last year. And we did hear very much that let's get these collective bargaining agreements settled so that there's some stability. And we also want to have some modifications to the contracts for savings long-term. So we've set aside money to do that, to make that happen. So we are working very much to meet the strategic goals that the administration and the council have worked together. The whole notion of Plan E form of government is that we're all on the same page. We're working in tandem. The council priorities and the administration priorities tying together. This budget reflects that. Just in closing, Lowell is in a better position now than it has been in years to make the targeted investments that we need to make. The long-term, the strategic planning, we can certainly address short-term problems, but we can't be thinking short-term. We have to be thinking long-term. As I said, we've held the line on taxes this year, even more so than has been done in 11 or 12 years, and we will continue to do that as we're moving forward. I apologize for the time it took to run through that presentation, but I appreciate the attention that was given. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further presentations at this time, we'll open it up for a public hearing. Before we do, I'll just cite the council rule 26A. A public hearing on the annual budget shall be held as provided in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 32, as amended. At said budget hearing, citizens and employees of the city shall have the opportunity to speak for not more than 5 minutes at the commencement of the hearing, or on the entire budget, or on any specific items therein. In addition, or in the alternative, said citizens and employees shall have the opportunity to speak prior to the consideration by the City Council of the particular portion of the budget concerning one or more of the various departments, but each person shall speak not more than 5 times, and for not more than 3 minutes each time. Individual speakers shall not be permitted to assign their allotted time to another individual. So at this point, I'll open it up for a public hearing.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding there's a public hearing also scheduled at 7 o'clock on this as well, right?
On the actual vote.
Right, which would be the public hearing that would have been advertised. I guess my point is I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the sequence that we have scheduled. And I think it's fine for the city manager to give a presentation. I think it's fine for the city councilors to ask the department heads any questions that they want. But I do think that it would be incorrect for the council to take a vote on any portion of the budget prior to that public hearing at 7 o'clock. I'm not sure that this was advertised, that 5 o'clock was advertised as a public hearing, maybe it was, but I do know that at the last council meeting, the city council voted unanimously to have a public hearing on this budget at 7 o'clock. And so I really think that
The
it
vote was
would
for
be,
5
if I
o'clock.
can finish, I
No,
think
5
it would
o'clock.
be
Well, I'm just-
correct to wait until after that public hearing before any votes are taken on any portion of the budget. That's all that I have
The
to say.
correct time was 5 o'clock.
Excuse me?
The vote was scheduled for 5 o'clock, and that was what was voted
The
on.
council agenda here says 7 o'clock. My understanding from the clerk was that that was advertised for 7 o'clock. Is that incorrect?
Mr. Clerk?
Two advertisements. There was an advertisement for the 5 o'clock public hearing for the budget, and there was no posting, public advertising on the agenda, but it was posted in the normal course. But there was a publication for the notice of the budget hearing.
The vote we took at the last council meeting, I believe, was that the public hearing would be advertised for 7 o'clock this evening.
5 o'clock.
I don't remember that.
It's not my recollection. I'm not saying it didn't happen at 5 o'clock. I'm just saying that the vote was for 7 o'clock, as my understanding is 7 o'clock, and that it's on the agenda tonight for 7 o'clock.
I remember reading it, and it said 5 o'clock. I mean,
Okay.
Right.
I'm only
So-
here, the only reason that I'm here is because I got notice Friday that it was gonna be 5 o'clock. That's why I'm here at 5 o'clock, and also that it would continue on till Thursday at 5 o'clock.
If
But I just
needed.
got that notice Friday.
The vote was pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 32. The City Council of the City of Lowell acknowledges timely receipt of the city manager on May 29, 2012, the recommended budget for the City of Lowell for fiscal year 2013, with the understanding that any recommended revisions, as may be submitted by the city manager at a later date and prior to the date of final approval of said budget by the City Council, shall collectively be considered the proposed budget for fiscal year 2013 for the City of Lowell. Public hearing on the budget as advertised in the Sun, June 1st, on June 1st, 2012, to be held on Tuesday, June 12, 2012, at 5 p.m., and then continued at the conclusion of the regularly scheduled City Council meeting in the City Council chambers and on such other dates and times as may be publicly announced by the City Council. At this point, we'll open it up for a public hearing for those wishing to speak on the budget. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the Lowell City Council, Mr. Manager, staff, for the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. This is a budget that I have been looking forward to for a long, long time. It is very informative. It gives what each department has done over the last year. It's a shame that it's taken so long. It should have been done about probably 12 years ago. I urge that this council, in its wisdom, supports the manager's budget. It is a tight budget. I really don't believe that you can really do any cuts that would not jeopardize the future of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else wishing to speak on the budget? Anyone else? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Open it up to general discussion of, we can either begin line by line, or we can begin with just a general discussion of the budget. Councilman Mendonça.
In looking over the budget, I know the manager and his staff certainly did a wonderful job of finding the cuts, balance it with the new revenues to keep the tax levy as low as possible. And I know we'll have discussion on each line item, and there may be lines that propose to be cut, but understand that's just an attempt to reach the no tax levy increase, and not to say that your proposal is not what we should have. In essence, you've done a very good job of spending what money we do have on our priorities, as you stated, and those investments are very important. And truly, I think to get down to eliminate that 4%, 0.4% increase, that we would have to jeopardize some of those investments in order to do so. And I'd be reluctant to do that. But if someone wants to suggest cuts in areas that don't jeopardize those, don't jeopardize public safety, I'd certainly be inclined to consider it and potentially support it if it helps us achieve that 0%. Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to suggest, I don't know if we need it in the form of a motion or if everybody just agrees that we go line by line and start now and finish after, and continue after the regular meeting. This way we can go through everything.
Motion by Councilor Broderick to review the budget line by line.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilor Noon.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Yeah.
Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just comment, I understand that the public wants us to do our job. There's no doubt about that. But there are departments that I've looked at that I don't see any potential cuts. So in that respect, I don't know that I'd want to go line by line, let's say, for the Council on Aging, or perhaps the Parks Department. I don't see cuts in some of the departments, not to say that I don't have any suggestion for cuts. And I know what the public wants. They probably think we should be here maybe and do our job. But I would suggest that, let's say we do the first one, for example, and we say, City of Lowell, City Clerk, any proposed reductions or comments or concerns? If there are none, then you approve the bottom line. But to go line by line by line when there's nothing there, I can't support this motion for that reason alone.
I think department by department's fine. It's actually what I meant. Line by line, I don't think we need to vote. We don't vote on every line.
There are, at the end of the budget, there's the budget resolution, which has the numbers, and then someone from the manager's office actually, for your own benefit, has provided each of the lines going through. So, for example, City Council has 2 lines to vote up or down on.
Right.
So that, I believe, is the intent behind the motion. Okay?
Yes.
On the motion?
Not on the motion, for me.
Okay, roll call, please. On the motion, Councilor Elliott.
I just want to follow up. Why is there a notice at 7 o'clock? I'm just following up on Councilor Kennedy's question. Why was it posted and advertised at 5, yet a vote's is scheduled for 7? I'm a little confused.
The vote back on the 29th of May was to have the budget hearing at 5 o'clock.
Okay, I got that.
Right.
So I guess, again, why is there a vote scheduled at 7 to approve the budget on the agenda?
This was submitted by the managers.
Is that optimism that we maybe would be done by 7?
I don't know why we have to take that long.
I'm afraid I'm going to be here Thursday night.
Maybe would the solicitor weigh in on this? Is there an opinion on
Madam Solicitor?
I mean, both, I guess my question is, there was a public notice for 5 o'clock, and then this is also a public posting and for a vote on on this at 7, so I don't understand what the two.
Well, what I could weigh in on is that there's nothing improper with the council moving forward based on the notice that went out for a public hearing at 5 o'clock, which is typically what the council does. The fact that it is somewhat redundant, perhaps being on the agenda for the regular scheduled meeting, really wouldn't be of any significant consequence, and the council would be free. In fact, if someone obviously showed up at 7 o'clock to speak on the budget, they could. This is not a public hearing that involves any sort of quasi-judicial action by the council, in which any action by the council prior to a public hearing would in any way affect or harm someone's rights. So you can certainly move forward. It was advertised for a 5 o'clock public hearing, and the fact that it also appears on the agenda, I don't think is really going to be of any great consequence.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I guess what's perplexing is, if what you're saying is correct, then why isn't it on the agenda for 5 o'clock? And, you know, this is a public hearing on the annual operating budget for the city. It's kind of a big deal, I think. As big a deal as a zoning change or anything else. But why does it not say on the agenda 5 o'clock?
This is a separate budget hearing, so it has its own posting in the same way that our special meetings have their own postings. So this is not the same as a regularly scheduled meeting.
So do you mean to say that we're having 2 public hearings on the budget? One at 5 and one at 7? Is that what you mean?
That's correct.
That's correct?
There's an actual budget hearing scheduled for 5 p.m., which is separate from the regularly scheduled meeting. During the regularly scheduled meeting, there's a period in which people can weigh in also on the budget.
I guess my concern is just this, and I don't mean to bog things down, but it occurs to me that some people, citizens, might be, like Mr. Goldman who just spoke, may want to speak on the budget, and that they would come down here at 7 o'clock, thinking that whatever they had to say at that public hearing was going to count. And it could be, if we proceed right now, that by the time that they come and speak, the subject matter that they spoke on would already have been decided on. And so, that's my point, is why aren't we giving those people an opportunity? Now, I understand that maybe you get to 7 o'clock, nobody's going to come down. But people should still have the opportunity to do that. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you have any answer for that?
Well, sure. I mean, at this rate, I don't think we're going to be voting on the final budget by 6:30, before 6:30. If we go line by line for the departments, then the final vote on the general budget will be after
Okay.
the regularly scheduled meeting. So,
All right, so we'll just leave this, there's no answer that's gonna be a satisfactory answer to me. We have 2 public hearings, one at 5 o'clock, one at 7 o'clock, on the same matter.
I don't know what the origin of the 7 o'clock public hearing was.
It's on the agenda. It's on the agenda, it's 7 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor?
That agenda's for the next meeting anyway. We're here for a 5 o'clock meeting that we called. If we may have to deal with it at 7 o'clock as well. Or we just stop now and wait, and take it up at 7 to then, I think we're gonna have to continue it anyway till we come back to this particular meeting when we are done with the regular scheduled meeting. That's not the agenda for this meeting.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my interpretation of what is before us. The budget hearing is scheduled for 5 o'clock right now, 5 o'clock. The manager gave his presentation. We're going into the budget. We're going to recess this budget at 6:30 to get into the city council. Perhaps it was an understanding that we may have even been done at that time. That would be wishful thinking It's not going to happen, I don't think. So 7 o'clock comes for public hearing in anticipation that perhaps we did approve of it, end it. We didn't. We can always recess that public hearing till the time when we do finalize the budget. That's my understanding. It's on there in case we had come to that point. That's only my interpretation. I don't think it'll happen the way that we're talking back and forth right now. We may not even get to the third department, but be that as it may, I think we could just recess that public hearing until such time that perhaps it'll be Thursday. Then we can have the public hearing and to agree on the bottom line of the budget. I don't know, that's my idea anyway.
We still have a motion on the floor on whether or not to take this budget line item by line item. Councilman Mendonça?
I support going basically department by department or page by page.
Roll call, please.
The vote is, as amended, to go budget, department by department, in terms of
Right, department,
the vote.
right.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Excuse me, Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
No.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 nay.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Kennedy.
if I could, before we start, I do have a series of maybe 6 or 8 questions that I'd like to ask the city manager that have to do with the presentation that he just gave.
Sure.
And those answers would be important to me in making my decisions as we go through the budget, if there's no objection. Would that be
Councilor
okay?
Kennedy.
Mr. Manager, in your presentation, you mentioned that the tax levy for this budget, this budget would cause the tax levy to go up only 0.4%. But you said that there may be other events that would occur later on in the year that would allow for there to be no increase at all. What are those events?
Well, it's unlikely there'll be any more state aid money that would come in. So it would really fall in the category, in all likelihood, and I frankly don't see any likelihood of any reductions of any departmental budgets. So it would fall on the revenue side, and it would be in either the taxes, if somewhere along the line the new growth came in higher. I don't think that that's likely, as it is now, we push the assessors to make sure they get all that new growth each and every year. But we're pushing it this year at the growth number that we have. But it's possible. More likely is something could happen between now and October, November in the area of local receipts. We may see trends that some of the building permits are coming in faster. It's unlikely we'd see anything in motor vehicle excise because that tends to happen more in the spring. The one area that I do think there is some potential there is in the area of tax liens. That right now, we've put in a budget that reflects the fact that we're going to get about $1.5 million in tax title receipts, tax lien receipts, in the fiscal year, which is in line with what we've averaged, plus some consideration of the fact that we've already exhausted some of the collections through the aggressive actions that we've taken over the last 2 years. The possibility or talk of an auction last year brought in quite a bit of money, and the talk of an auction and the actual auction this year brought in a good chunk of money. So we certainly can't say that we're going to be bringing in that same amount because we've already collected that. However, as Councilor, as you well know, we do have the auction planned. And I can't build a budget. Conservatively, I cannot build a budget that anticipates some amount of money coming in that auction that if the auction doesn't happen and we've built a budget with that assumption, then we'd have to come back in here and we'd be at that point 3 or 4 months into the fiscal year. It would be difficult to make any reductions, make any changes. We've been down that road here in the city before. But what we can do is if that money comes in, if we do the auction and the money comes in the September, October timeframe, because the bid will be in August, and that's why we wanted to put it at a certain point that we could get that. We could count that as an actual one-time local receipt, and we could put, let's say we collected $4 million, roughly. We've anticipated $1.5 million in here. We could fill that $1.5 million gap with that $4 million and still have $2.5 million left over, which would then be my proposal that we would allocate another, or we would actually, I think we could do that ourselves, is allocate the $500,000 to cover the $472,000 0.4% increase, and then I would set aside or come to the council and have the other $2 million appropriated to some type of reserve for future consideration.
Okay. My next question had to do with, actually with local receipts. It seems, in looking back, that you are, and I understand your comments about overestimating local receipts, but it seems to me that sometimes you might be a little overly prudent in your estimation of local receipts. And so do you think that I mean, how did you arrive at that? Do you think that there's room there? Do you think that you might be a little light on local receipts for anticipation of local receipts for this year?
Actually, I don't think, and I have a chart here that I want to show you. I have charts for everything. Yeah. So I don't think I am. Can you? Oh. Mike, can you do that? And perhaps Mr. Moses can talk you through a little bit about how they're calculated, but then we have a historical perspective on how we do local receipts.
One of the processes in setting a tax rate is having the Department of Revenue take a look at our estimated local receipts from the upcoming year. The first thing they do is compare the local receipts to the actual collections in the prior year. And they will not allow us to estimate any greater than those local receipts.
Right, but my issue is not doing that, it's doing the opposite. It's underestimating local
Right,
receipts, and
right,
they probably have no
right.
objection to that.
Right. The problem is that is the one item that when we go to set the tax rate gives us some flexibility. If the Department of Revenue has an issue anywhere within our budget, our way of maintaining the tax rate that everybody expects is to have a little flexibility in the local receipts. If we don't have that flexibility and the Department of Revenue says, you're a little vulnerable on this budget, then we face a tax increase that it was not anticipated by anyone, and it's forced on us by the Department of Revenue. And that, I think, is something that nobody wants.
This chart shows this a little bit, and I just want to talk about this one, then talk a little bit about another comment I made, and just give an example of what Mr. Moses was just talking about. This gives you some sense of the blue line here, and I again apologize, we have this here, and it might not show up quite as well, but the blue line shows actual receipts. You can see back in the early 2000s, we were quite high compared to the actuals, and then we started tracking in line, and then we started dipping below. And in 2006, you can see there was a very substantial, there was about a $6 million difference between the estimated receipts and the actual 2005, actually it's more, I think 2005. We sort of righted the ship after that to bring us more in line, and we exceeded it in 2007, 8, and then we've been tracking very consistently to that. Now, we are starting to vary a little bit from that, but it is a very dangerous action we could take. And I mentioned the Oversight Board coming in 1991. The problem with the City of Lowell in 1991, 1992 was the issue of overestimating receipts, and it got us into a deficit position. We might even be able to get through the Department of Revenue right now, although they're very conscious and careful with that. I myself have had experience with them challenging numbers, been able to make the case, but there are other communities that certainly have gone through exactly what Mr. Moses has described, that they put in numbers, the Department of Revenue rejects it. In fact, I would argue that even in fiscal year 2006, here in the city, and the councilors that were here at the time remember this, between Christmas and New Year, there were 3 separate special meetings to deal with the fact that the Department of Revenue would not approve the numbers that were being presented by the city. And ultimately, what happened was they had to essentially get an advance on their free cash, which in large part led to the negative free cash going into fiscal year 07, which complicated the financial picture at that time. So I recognize that we're prudent. I'm proud of the fact that we're prudent. I think it's the more responsible thing to do, and it gives us more flexibility moving forward. But I do think in the area of the tax title, there is some flexibility there once we get the auction under our belt.
Okay. A lot of my other questions are specific to certain departments, so I'll just save those for then. But I did have 2 other issues, and one was one was in the capital budget, the windows for City Hall. That's $1 million. What if we appropriate $500,000? What happens then? You do half the windows?
It's actually, the actual cost of the windows is substantially more than that. I believe the cost is about $3 million, $2 million. That we've got $1 million that we've saved through other capital work that we've done here, particularly with the Amoresco. We've got some grant money that we've got for it. And I would argue that so to not do $1 million, to only do $500,000 saves you very little in terms of, it doesn't affect fiscal year 13 at all. It would affect 14. It saves you very little in terms of impact on the tax rate because it's spread out over 20 years. So you affect that $500,000 would be only $25,000 a year, which is negligible. And in fact, you would probably lose that savings in mobilization costs of having to have the contract come back in, rebid it. You'd get a better bang for your buck doing all of it at once than doing 75% of it and just not doing that small portion until later, which then you'd have to, say, mobilize, and you'd have to pay a premium really for such a small job.
Okay. And on the wastewater, I read where there would be an increase for the water and sewer charge. What is that like? What do you anticipate that being? And also, I believe in the budget you had a comment about that street cleaning would be no longer, that money would no longer be taken out of that part of the budget. What is?
Yeah, I think that's still taken out, but we've brought it in-house. That's the difference that we've made this year.
Okay. And what do you mean by that? What was it? Did we outsource that before?
We outsourced the street sweeping last year for a
Okay.
period of time.
All right, so now so do we have the equipment to do that?
We do.
Okay. Did we last year?
We did, but the numbers last year reflected a savings if we went outside. We did it with a regional consortium out of the Upper Merrimack Valley. We all bid it together, communities, and but this year we were able to sharpen the pencils at the DPW and get it to be cheaper to have it being done in-house, which was our preferred option anyway. But in terms of the impact of the the fee increase, we're talking 5%, so I think that's probably about $15 for the average homeowner, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, and it would be that would go towards mitigating larger increases in the fees in the future.
Okay. That's probably it. I mean, I have other questions, but they're specific to the department, so I'll save them for the proper time.
On just general budget issues, or? Councilor Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But before I ask the question, it's just on this. I see all the department heads here tonight, and I want to thank everyone During the year, I know we all call, we all get requests, and just thank everyone for their help and their staffs. On the water department, we don't have what the towns contribute in. Are we looking at an increase on the towns?
Oh, in the water?
Yeah.
No, there's no increase. There's no increase planned in water at all.
No, well, we build the towns.
We do build the towns.
Right.
And
We
that's included within the rate revenue that we have there.
It
isn't
is,
just-
it is.
yes.
Now, for the
And we
rest of the
charge
year.
we charge them the same rate that the city of Lowell ratepayers pay.
They get the same rate we do.
Yep.
Is there going to be an increase down the line for them, or?
When are we projecting, for the other communities? I don't believe we're planning that. In fact, if anything, I'd love to be able to get more communities buying more from us rather than looking for other options.
Well,
Because there's a very negligible cost to us producing more flow into the other communities, but there's quite a bit of revenue that can be gained from that.
That was another question I was going to have, but actually for later. I know Greater Boston has much higher rates than we do. And would that be something we'd look at down the line?
Going to the
expanding.
MWRA? Well, there is, I think.
Not getting involved with them.
No.
Expanding our
Going to
services
that
to
type
towns,
of rate structure. Well, the MWRA is a separate authority that bills everybody. It isn't a Boston, it's an authority of the Commonwealth.
No, I understand that. My question is, as you just said, you were looking to expand who we sell the service to.
Right.
And that was
Oh.
my question. Would we expand in those areas?
Probably not that close to, the capital cost would be too much for us to do that. We just do the surrounding communities, but we've certainly tried to give more, sell more to the neighboring communities to bring in additional revenue. We haven't been totally successful yet, but
Okay, that
fairly
was my
successful.
question going into the budget. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Unless we have any further general discussion, we'll move to the first item. Councilor Kennedy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on Council Lori's line of questioning, you said that you anticipate that there would be a 5% increase for water and sewer charge.
Just wastewater.
Excuse me?
Just wastewater, just sewer.
So would that be, would we charge the towns that too, that increase? They'd pay that increase, wouldn't they?
They're under a separate agreement, but they would pay a portion of that as well, yes.
Right, but I mean, if we go up locally, if we go up here by 5%, would we increase the towns by 5%, or are they under contract? Is that something we can't do right away?
They're under contract, but they're under contract to a formula, not to a rate. And we're in the middle of negotiating new intermunicipal agreements with all the communities. They all expire at about the same time. And so we're looking to be a little bit more aggressive with the formula.
Okay.
But they would pay their share of that additional 5% to pay the cost, yes.
Okay. It's my understanding that some towns, and I just learned this recently with that sewer tie-in thing, that what happens in some towns is we charge one rate, and then they add a management fee or a premium to that rate. And so even though they're not really doing anything, they're getting some money out of that, right?
They're maintaining their own pipes. They're maintaining their own systems. They all have, almost all of them have pump stations that they have to maintain. They have billing systems they have to maintain. They have their own lines within their community they have to maintain.
And so that's what their additional fee is for?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So then in those instances, is it that the people in the towns are paying more than the people in the city of Lowell are paying?
Yes, actually, in many cases, they are paying more. In terms of total cost, yes.
Okay. Is that in every
They're
case?
they're paying less, the towns of Dracut, Tewksbury, and Chelmsford may pay less per gallon than a resident of the city. But that's because the city has its costs that it adds on for its maintenance of pump stations, lines, billing, et cetera. And then they add on their costs beyond that.
Okay,
The other communities.
thanks.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to begin. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, Are there, and these are general questions as well, I know that there's been you factored in $1 million for union contracts. What about other salary increases? Are there salary increases for everybody in this budget?
Yes, there are.
There are,
The-
so-
The ordinance employees are covered for a cost of living raise as well.
Right, and when was that adopted? Was that that was a multi-year, correct?
That was actually, that's by ordinance, going back into the early 2000s, I believe, that there's a set cost of living.
So
in-
some of them are upgrades, but is there a cost of living increase as well?
Yes, there is. And that was, again, by ordinance. That's in the ordinance.
What is that?
I believe it's 2.5%.
2.5% every year until when?
Well, every year.
Okay.
But now we have frozen it. We have taken steps, as everyone here will attest to, that we have frozen it the past several years and not provided that cost of living. This year it is included because we're providing the union people with salary increases, and we believe there's an issue of equity there.
So I just want to get this straight. There's annually a regular salary increase in every budget for non-union employees.
Not every year, because as I say, some years we've taken the step of not presenting a cost of living and essentially violating the ordinance, if you will. But because times were tight, we didn't feel it was appropriate to bring that forward. But this year there is included that cost of living.
Could I, through you to the solicitor or the clerk, could we get a copy of that ordinance and when it was adopted and the vote as well? Because I think that's a concern. Could you tell me what the cost of that is in this budget, Mr. Manager?
I can't, maybe Mr. Moses can tell you that, but I can tell you that we had this discussion 3 years ago, 2 years ago, must have been 3 years ago, and it was roughly, the cost of living was about $60,000. So I would anticipate that it's probably between $60,000 and $70,000 this year.
Okay. All right, thank you. And the second thing, do you have a free cash projection for this year?
Not as of yet.
What is the ballpark figure that we're looking at? Because you do have, I did see a chart with reserve funds that I think up to 2014, you're looking at building that reserve to $4.5 million. Just, now that doesn't include the statutory requirement, just that one in itself. So are we looking at like 1.7?
It's hard to say
1.4.
right now. We anticipate $1 million to $2 million probably, may be somewhere in that range, but we won't know that probably until everything gets closed out, everything's audited, and we probably won't know that till the December, January timeframe.
Okay. There are a number of positions in the budget that are vacant, yet they're funded. Is it your intent to continue to fill all those positions?
I believe everything that's in there is with the intention of continuing to fill those, yes. That's been an ongoing discussion with some of our bargaining units, in particular, for filling those positions, and we are looking to do that.
And I'll ask you a little bit more, but including the clerk for bioterrorism, that's one of the positions. It's funded at $7,000.
How much money?
7. But maybe I should have I'll bring that up when we get through that. Okay, I had filed a motion a number of weeks ago about a no tax increase, and I'm still concerned. I'm not an economist, but there still is a lot of uncertainty in the market. The other part of my concern is while there is, I shouldn't say just $472,000 increase in this budget, I would like to see a no tax increase at all. The other concern is the businesses in the community. I've been receiving a number of emails, a number of phone calls, and their concern is the cost of doing business in the city, taxes, fees, permits, etc. So I think as we go through it, it's my hope to make some cuts for residents, but also businesses as well. And I think it's important. It's almost a banner year for us where we have significant reductions in our healthcare costs. We're still looking at new growth. We're looking at, according to your statement, between 1 and 2 million. And I'm not suggesting we use free cash as a revenue source. I never have, never been a proponent of that, but still, it's still revenue that we're looking at. So as we go through, I think there are still some areas we can always do better. People at home, corporations, they cut costs, they look for efficiencies, they look to, they look to create dividends for investments, dividends to the people that have invested in their company, and I truly believe that the taxpayers have invested. They've kept the city going, and now is the time for us to pay them a dividend, and that would be a no tax increase. My concern is, and as we had this discussion the last time, Mr. Manager, it is what this budget does in the future, and it looks, and according to the numbers, there are significant, there will be tax increases for sure next year, the following year, all the way out to 2017, and we have to be, while this is a good year, I don't think we can put any structural deficits or any, vote on things that are going to affect us next year, because I still think, personally, there's still a lot of uncertainty out there. Who knows what's going to happen with local aid? Who knows what's going to happen on the state? They're using $400 million to balance their budget this year, and the market still goes all over the place. So while we're looking at this year, next year, and the outlying years, what is adopted here and union contracts, et cetera, does have an effect in the future. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a few observations.
Mr. Manager.
I just want to make a couple comments to Councilor Elliott, and I couldn't agree with Councilor Elliott more on the need for caution, and that's why we take the position we take on things like local receipts. And in our forecast, we try to be as conservative as possible. And we do show minimal tax increases over the next several years, less than other communities are going up. Those years, we do think that there may be additional opportunities for savings. I do think the city has, and I continue to say this, I do think we've done a lot to cut costs and hold the line on taxes, and I stand by that. And I think it reflects the work of the council and the administration. In terms of the commercial taxes, I will tell you this: we have done some work on that, because I've talked to some of the business owners as well. And if you look at the per square foot cost by tax rate, Lowell is very competitive with the communities that we compare ourselves to in this region, Billerica, Burlington, and Chelmsford. In terms of quality office building, we're well below most of the communities. I think Billerica is the only one that's below us, which is interesting given the fact that they too have a very high split rate, and Chelmsford, which does not, has a higher cost per square foot. Big box retail, Lowell is considerably less than Billerica there, and competitive with Burlington. In fast food restaurants, we're lower than everybody. Industrial buildings, we're lower than or in line with everybody, and actually lower than a couple. So on a square foot cost, if I was, if a builder or a business is looking to locate in a community and they look at the square foot tax cost, we're actually very competitive. And I wanted the opportunity to, but I agree that it's certainly a concern of businesses of what their costs are, and I think we match up well, but I appreciate your sentiments.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My point is, we have achieved, and people at home watch and they read, we have achieved, it's been one of the mildest winters ever. We have seen energy savings. We have seen significant energy savings. And especially, I went through the budget, natural gas, there are significant balances left over. And what I hear and what I read is that natural gas is not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay very low, as well as health insurance. And my point is, it's our responsibility, I think, to pass those savings on. That's what I hear. I see them, fine. I read about them. They're good things. We have to pass them on to the people that pay the bills. The taxpayers, they should realize the savings that have been achieved. That's my only point. Thank you.
Councilman Donta.
I was I'm not sure, maybe more general discussion. I was going to suggest that we take up the school appropriations out of order, hopefully get them done before we start our next meeting. Of course, that was 15 minutes ago. So, I don't know what the wish of the council is.
At this point, I'd entertain then a motion to suspend the budget meeting till after the conclusion of our regularly scheduled meeting. Motion by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.